In this exercise, I'm going to demonstrate how to do some of the HTML exercises using a Mac. Just as a note, there are a few prerequisites that you should consider before getting started. First of all, I'm going to be using Google Chrome as the web browser when I am demonstrating things. If you don't have Google Chrome on your Mac, then go ahead and download it and install it so that you can use the same web browser that I'm using. You may find that you have some issues with Safari as far as stability, compatibility, and those types of things. Secondly, I'm using Adobe Acrobat to open my PDF exercise files. The reason I'm doing this is because opening the exercise files in a web browser and trying to copy and paste content can cause problems in that the content may not properly paste into your Notepad documents or your TextEdit documents. So I strongly recommend that you use a reader like Adobe Acrobat Reader. And again, you can download this and install it for free on your Mac. Lastly, we're going to be using the TextEdit program, and I have it pinned here in my dock. You should be able to find it, however, in applications on your computer. You notice here it is right here. But there are some settings or preferences that you need to set in the program. So when you open TextEdit, you need to go to the TextEdit menu. You need to choose Preferences. And in Preferences, you need to set the format to plain text. And I would recommend you check the Wrap to Page checkbox. Then over in the Open and Save tab, you need to check this box that says Display HTML files as HTML code. So make sure on the new document you have plain text and Wrap to Page. And then under Open and Save, make sure you have this first line checked. Once you've done that, you can close the preferences and you're ready to go. And even quitting TextEdit, these settings will be persistent. So get set up and then we'll get started with our exercises. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to do the HTML basics exercise on a Mac. So to begin with, make sure that you have the exercise file open on Blackboard, so the exercise folder, open on Blackboard, so you can download the instructions and the starting file. Depending on the semester and your instructor, the location for these files may change, but you need these two files to get started. You also require a place to store your documents. So you could store it on an external drive if you have one, like a flash drive. But for this exercise, I'm just going to create a new folder on the desktop. I'm going to rename this folder. I'm going to call it MRK264. Sorry, 260. That's the correct course, MRK260. So here's the folder that I'm going to be putting everything into and working from, just to keep things together. Next, I'm going to download the instructions. And the instructions have been written for a Windows computer, but we will be working through them on a Mac in this exercise. Once you've downloaded the instructions, you can minimize Chrome. Let's take a look in the folder, and let's open the exercise file in Acrobat Reader. There is a warning up here that says you should open the file in Acrobat Reader and not in a web browser, because we will be copying and pasting code from this document. And if you try to do that in a web browser, the copy and paste may not work properly. You may get some strange, weird characters in there. Let's start going through the instructions. First things first, we want to go into this folder. We want to create a new folder, and we want to call this folder Exercise 2.1. Inside the Exercise 2.1 folder, and I'll change to a different view here, so desktop, okay. Inside the Exercise 2.1 folder, we want to also create a new folder. We want to call this one Images. Make sure that it is all lowercase. From the Images folder, we're going to actually download one of the other files. We'll open Chrome again. And following the instructions, we're going to download this rocket.gif file into that folder. So choose Save Link As, browse and find your Images folder, and save the rocket.gif file in that folder. We're going to need that later on. Make sure you put it in the images folder. Make sure that it is all lowercase. So don't rename the image. Make sure that the images folder is lowercase. Make sure it's in the exercise 2.1 folder because the instructions that we're following rely on all of that. Continuing with the instructions, close some of these windows here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to open our text edit program. Now it says Notepad in here, but on a Mac you actually want the text edit program. And if you recall from the prerequisites, we want to make sure our preferences are set to plain text, wrap to page, and under open and save that it says display HTML files as HTML code. So make sure those settings have been configured in your text edit program. Next, we need to create a new document. So we'll choose File New, and we're going to create this document in the exercise 2.1 folder. So here's our new document. We haven't saved it yet, but we will be saving it in the exercise 2.1 folder. Next step, after you've opened and created your document, is to go and save it. So choose Save. Make sure you are in the exercise 2.1 folder. You should be able to see the images folder there as well, but don't go into that one. Be in the exercise 2.1 folder. And what we want to do is we want to type in the name index.html. And the .html is important. That's going to indicate that it is an HTML file. Click on Save. If you get this box up, tell it to use HTML. And we now have an index.html document, and you should note that there is a little web browser icon up here, a little Safari icon showing up in it. This is now the beginning of our web page. Next step is to start putting the code into our web page. So we'll follow along to the top of page number 2. The code in this needs to be copied. So you could type this in, but it's a lot easier to copy and paste. So I'm going to copy this code, and I'm going to paste this code into my index.html document. So here's the code. Notice if you've done the homework, you should recognize all of the different HTML tags. So there's the main HTML tag, there's a head tag and a closing head tag, there is a title tag, and it says My First Web Page, and there's a closing title tag. There's also an opening body tag and an closing body tag. Once you've done all of this, go up and choose File, Save, and that will save the document. The next step is to go and take a look at what you've created. So back in your folder, in your exercise 2.1 folder, you should see an HTML file called index. If you double click on that, it will open your web browser, and you should see a blank page because there is nothing in the body of this document. And up in the top in the tab, it should say My First Web Page. Let's change this to say Your First Web Page, or you put your name in that. So I'm going to go back to the HTML document here. I'm going to change the word my here to read Stefan's first web page. I'm going to save the document. Back in the web browser, I will reload again, and notice now it says Stefan's first web page. The document is still blank because we haven't put anything inside the body tags. The body tags are where the content that will show up in the body of the web browser window. Back to our instructions. If we continue to scroll down, we're going to add some headings to our document. So to begin with, we're going to make some space inside the body tag of our document. We can then copy these 3 lines of code, which are in red. Copy these, and we'll paste them into our document. And you can leave a little bit of space. I like to have things spaced out in here so that you can see what you're doing. Notice that we have a heading 1, a heading 2, and a heading 3. Go ahead and change the student name to your name. Go ahead and change the date to be today's date. The day that I'm actually doing this is January 19th, 2021. And note that we have their heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and then a paragraph of text here. Once you've updated that, go ahead and choose File, Save. And back to Chrome, go ahead and reload your web page. Notice that now that we have content in the body, you see that content in the body of the web browser window here. So you have my first web page, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and then a paragraph of text. So you have actually now just created your first web page. It's very basic, very simple, but it exists. Let's continue. Scrolling back down through the exercise, you'll notice there are two larger paragraphs of text, and these are lorem text. You guys remember that from MRK 264, I would think. Just fake text. It's not real language, it's not Latin, it's just fake text. So I'm going to copy this text, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to get rid of this paragraph in my exercise and make a little bit more space, and I'm going to paste. Let me just do this again. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to paste that code in. I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose paste and paste the code in. And again, I'll make a little bit of extra space. Don't worry about the underlines. We don't care about spelling here. You'll notice we now have two larger paragraphs of text. I've just spaced them out a little bit in Notepad. So here's our three headings, and there are our larger paragraphs of text. Go ahead and save your document and go back and reload your web page to see the results. Here are our two larger paragraphs. Notice that if you shrink or expand your web browser, you'll notice that you don't have any control in your basic HTML over the presentation. You haven't been able to select your font or any of the layout options. That's something you would need to do later when you're dealing with style sheets. Let's continue through the exercise. In this part of the exercise, we're talking about formatting text, and I've provided you with the strong tag, which is equivalent to bold, and the emphasis tag, which is equivalent to italic. I'm not actually going to use these tags. I'll use the B and I tags instead. When I created this exercise originally, I used the original HTML tags, but we'll use more modern tags, which are a little bit quicker to type. So back in your HTML code, go ahead and put in a B tag around some of your content. Starting B tag, and then after a couple of words, let's put in a closing B tag with the /. This is a switch that will turn bold on for those words, and then will turn bold off at the end of those two words. Go somewhere else in your document and go ahead and put in some I tags, I for italic, and at the end of a couple of words, /I to turn off italic. And then somewhere else again in your document, go ahead and put in a U tag for underline, and after a couple of words, go ahead and enter a /U tag to turn it off. Now that we've marked up this text with bold, italic, and underline, go ahead and save your document again and reload your document. Notice that I've got bold, I've got italic, and I've got underline in my document now. If you want to combine bold and italic, all you need to do is combine the tags. So put a second italic tag after your bold tag, or put an italic tag after your bold tag, and then put a /I tag in front of the closing bold tag, and now we have bold and italic. Remember that the web browser is turning on bold, then turning on italic, then turning off italic, and then turning off bold. If I do File, Save, and I reload, you'll see that we now have bold italic here. So quick, simple markup. Continuing in the exercise, let's look at line breaks and spaces. You'll notice that in our web page, when you have paragraph tags in use, you get this space between paragraphs, which is the normal action you want for any type of paragraph. But sometimes you may actually want to just drop a line, have a line break instead. This is particularly useful because many content management systems don't include a button for a line break. So if you want to actually add a line break, like we're going to do now, you may need to edit the HTML. So knowing how to do this is actually quite useful. Back in our HTML document, I'm going to go just after the words lorem ipsum here. I'm going to put in a /BR tag. So this tag is the ending tag. It stands for break. Notice there is no opening tag here. Because this is not actually a tag that can hold any content, it's been abbreviated, and all you need to do is put in the ending tag. I'm also going to go and I'm going to just replace this with a capital D, and I'm going to go ahead and save this. And when I reload this time, you'll notice it has dropped down a line, and this is why I put a capital D on there, because it's now going to sit on a line by itself. So this gives you a great way to do a quick line break in a document. Another thing I want to point out is that when you put spaces in HTML, so here I have a space between the word my and the word first. If I add additional spaces and I choose File Save, your expectation might be that there would be additional spaces would appear here, but you'll notice that doesn't in fact happen. Only one space is recognized. A space is a space, whether it's a big space or a small space. When it comes to HTML, a space is a space. So you're only seeing a single space. You may see weird characters like the ones that you see here in this, in the instructions. This is an example of a combination of characters that can be used to insert spaces. So I'm going to go back to my HTML. I just copied that combination of characters, and I'm going to paste those characters in here. I'm going to do it one time, then again, then again, and then again. So I've pasted this group of special characters in 4 times. When I choose File Save and reload this time, you'll notice that I now have 4 spaces. This is something that you will see. You'll occasionally see strange characters like this when you're looking at file names and other documents online. They're simply special characters that have been put in to substitute characters that don't or can't be used or don't operate the way you would expect in an HTML document. For example, what if you wanted to use a greater than or less than symbol? Since greater than and less than symbols are used to help denote HTML tags, you can't just put them in the body of your text. So there are special combinations of characters like this that can be used to insert those. And most text editors like Dreamweaver and other ones will do that for you automatically, but it is just something to be aware of. The next item that you might commonly do in a Microsoft Word document would be a list, either a bullet list or a numbered list. So I'm going to copy the information from the instructions here for this list. I'll make some space in my document and I will paste the list in. So now I have a container, which is an UL container, which stands for unordered list. And inside that container, or inside those tags, I have other sets of tags which make up containers, which are the list items. So I have list item 1, list item 2, list item 3. Let me save and reload, and you'll notice that we now have our list items. If you want to have, by the way, this is an unordered list. If you want to have an ordered list, which is a numbered list, all you need to do is go back to your HTML and change the U to the letter O. So OL and OL. When you save this and you go back and you reload, you will now have a numbered list of items. Well, our web page is coming along, but it's still pretty boring. So let's insert pictures into the page. So at the bottom of page 6, there is some code here for inserting an image. Go ahead and copy that code. And in your HTML, put some space after your final paragraph, but before your list, and go ahead and paste that code in. Now, You'll notice that I've put this image into a paragraph. That's just to make sure there's space above and below it. But if you take a look, here is the image tag. Notice that it has a parameter in it, which is basically saying telling the web browser load an image. The source of the image is the images folder, the rocket.gif file. And if you remember, when we put our documents in here, we created an images folder and we put our rocket.gif file in our images folder. So we're simply instructing the web browser to look in this folder and to retrieve this file and display it in this location on the screen. Notice that the image itself does not go into the HTML, just a reference that links to it. I'll save my document, go back, reload, and here is our image inserted by the web browser into the appropriate space in our document. I'm going to go back and get rid of these extra spaces and just leave a single space in there, just to clean up my document a little bit more. Now that we have pictures, we have headings, we have paragraphs, we have italics, we have bold, let's add a link to our document. So on the top of page 7, there is some code in red, and this code will allow us to put in a link. I'm going to make some space here in the middle of or between my two paragraphs, and I'm going to paste that code in. And I'd like you to notice how the code is structured. I'm just going to make this a little bit wider so that we can see it all on one line here. Give me a second. It's not making it wider. It didn't work. Notice that I put it in a paragraph again just to put space above and below. Here is our tag, a tag, the opening tag. Notice that it has a parameter in it, the hypertext reference parameter equals, and then the URL or the link that we want this link to go to in quotation marks. Then we have some text. This text is the text that will become the link. And then we have a closing a tag, /a at the end. Let's go ahead and save this. Go back to our document and reload it. And now you'll notice you have a link in your document. If you click on that link, it will open Google. Now, one problem with what we've done here right now is that it has opened Google in the same tab as our website was in. And in order to get back to our website, I'm going to have to click on the back arrow. This is not a good thing for you to do on a website you're developing that you want people to stay on. If it's good to provide links to external resources. It's good from a search engine optimization standpoint. It's good to make sure that your customers are able to continue their investigation or their information search, but you don't want to send them away from your web page and hope that they come back. So we're going to modify this link. We're going to add another parameter in here. The parameter we're going to add is in the instructions right here. It's target equals blank. I'm going to go in and just type it in. So I've left a space after the end of the URL. I'm going to type in the word target. I'm going to put an equal sign, open quote, underscore blank, close quote. So this parameter is telling the link to open in a new blank tab. I'll choose File, Save, go back to my document, click on Reload. Nothing looks different, except this time, however, when I click on the link, you'll notice it opens in a new tab. So there's my site here, there's the Google tab here. And I can hope we'll come back to my site and continue reading my article or learning about my products and services. Continuing through the exercise, what if you want to make a button that people can click on and go somewhere? For example, what if we wanted this graphic to be a button? Well, just like this text became a link by surrounding it with this A tag, we can surround a picture with an A tag, and that will turn the picture into a link as well. So even though I only need the red code here, I'm going to select all of the code because it's simpler and copy it. I'm then going to go down to my HTML. I'm going to just remove this code, and I'm going to paste in the replacement. So it's the same thing, it's the image tag that we had before, but this time I've surrounded the image tag with an A tag. And this A tag, when you click on it, should bring you to virgingalactic.com, and it should open in a new blank window. So I will go ahead and I will save this, go back and reload. And again, visually you don't see any difference here. However, you'll notice if you hover over the picture now, it is a link. And if you click on it, it will open the Virgin Galactic website in a new browser tab. So far, we've covered off most items. Let's take a look at the last couple of items here. Creating tables. Now, tables can be used to organize information on the screen or on the web page, or to hold things in places. Tables are a little bit more complex to create. Generally, you wouldn't want to do them manually, but I do have an example here that we're going to use. So go ahead and copy the table information, and then leave some space after, oops, not there, leave some space after your list, and go ahead and paste the code into that space. This is a table container, so there's the opening and the closing table container tags. Tables consist of rows and columns, so here is a table row container, and then these TD containers are actually the columns. So this is a single row with two columns, and the columns have links in them, so this is going to become a little navigation menu, a home page link and a page 2 link. Notice that there are A tags in here, and that it is referencing the index.html document that we have created here, and a second page 2.html document that doesn't exist yet, but we'll create in a few minutes. Go ahead and save this. Go back and reload your document. And you'll notice at the bottom of the screen, you now have this little table with two links in it, a home page link and a page 2 link. Now, if I click on the page 2 link, it will not go anywhere because I don't have a page 2 yet, but we can fix that by going back to Notepad. Make sure this is saved. Then you can close it. Go ahead and create a new text document. Choose File, Save. Make sure it's in the same place as your original index.html file and call it page2.html. Make sure you keep it all lowercase and make sure you put the .html at the end. Click on Save. Say it's okay to use HTML for the extension. And we now have our page 2, but it has no code. In this document, the very end, I've provided code for a second page. So go ahead and copy all of this red text. Choose Copy, paste it in. Go ahead and save this document. And now when you go back and you click on the page 2 link, you'll get a page 2. And when you click on the home page link, you'll go back to your index page. So we now have 2 pages in our document that we can switch between. Hopefully, in this lesson, you've learned how to put together some basic HTML. There is a little bit of other information in the document. For example, on page 9, all of the code for the previous part of the exercise for your index.html document, all of your code is here. So if you have errors or you're concerned about your code not being correct, you can just copy all of this and you can paste it into your index.html document. Remember, it's not likely you would ever create a web page from scratch, but at least now you understand HTML, you see how it fits together and how it works. And if you ever have to look at HTML, you have at least a general understanding of what it is you're looking at. I hope that helped.